Hey, we're live. It is slightly afternoon here on the East Coast. Friday, August 21st, something like that. Man, we are almost into September. The older I get, man, time really does fly. As long as a lot of beard, gray hair too. Anyway, I'm Brent Leary, and I'm happy because I just got my latest brand new Rams hat. So new that I haven't even taken off all the tags and stuff. I just wanted to jump right into it because wearing a new Rams hat just makes me happy. But anyway, what also makes me happy is doing a small biz breakdown with the following individuals. Starting in Oregon, as we usually do, Leland from Orland, Oregon.
Oregon. So, question for you: how many Rams hats do you have?
You might have a better chance of getting a correct answer from like ChatGPT than me. I kind of lost track several years ago, actually. So I don't know. I think we are into the hundreds, which is really kind of ashamed of, but it is what it is at this point.
We all collect things that are special and precious to us. My wife has got a lot of Hello Kitty plushie dolls. So I mean,
All right, so you're outing your wife. You're outing your wife, but not yourself. So I don't know. I don't know, man.
Video games. I'll take that. I'll take that. It's video games.
Well, speaking of something special and precious, Gary, Indiana's own Pierre with a little. Is that a little stubble there? We're not used to seeing
probably
that.
A little bit of stubble because of I didn't get a chance to shave this morning, but yeah.
Well, tell us where you are right now because you're not at home.
Yeah, I'm in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is northwest of Chicago, northwest of O'Hare. Gary, for those of you who probably may or may not know, was hit with and the whole northwest Indiana was hit with a very heavy storm that took out power. The trees that knocked over a number of lines. We have 300,000 residents impacted, and I was among those. So I did my little slip out to Schaumburg, stayed out here for a couple of days just to kind of get work done and have Wi-Fi. And I'm coming to you from the library. So it's one of those things. If you're an entrepreneur, figure out how to keep plowing ahead. That's what you got to do.
And his first stop, usually, people like me, my first stop would have been like the KFC or, see if they have any power. And he's at the library, folks. So, that just tells you the type of guy, Gary, the guy here, kind of guy here. He's a Gary guy, of course. But anyway, we're just glad that you're able to join us. So let's keep it moving a little further to the east. That mystical, magical place we like to call Medina, where Madam Mic Drop resides, Ivana Taylor. Hey, Ivana.
Hey, good to see y'all.
That's it.
I'm warning everybody that I have vacation brain. I was visiting the beautiful town of Destin, Florida, where the sands are sugar white. I learned all about that.
Sugar.
Why there are no shells. There is no seaweed. The sand looks like what? Oh my God. It's like, and you know what else is beautiful? It's so clean. They keep that beach insanely clean. So I do have vacation brain. I'm glad to be back on East Coast time. I did not know that Destin was on Central time. I missed a few appointments. That was fun.
Yeah, that happens when you have vacation brain.
I have vacation brain, but I am back in Medina where we are having. If you are in the Northeast Ohio area, come on down to Medina. We are having our something sidewalk, rock and roll, something. All the small businesses in the town, as you know, we have lots. There are bands playing live. There are all kinds of things. There's joy in the valley.
We love when there's joy in the valley. And by the way, is vacation brain a thing? Like, is that something I should have known about years ago?
I never had vacation brain in my life. I cannot believe that, to Pierre's point about being an entrepreneur, right? I was only gone for a few days, so I didn't see the point of doing any of the autoresponder stuff. I was going to keep my appointments. but the sands and the sun were so intoxicating. There were other intoxicating moments as well, which is very rare for me. And so, yeah. Mhm.
All right. Maybe you should try to get that vacation brain a little bit more often. Then it sounds like
I think so. Maybe I need to practice. Maybe that's what it is.
Let me see if our next co-host, because we're all like just a bunch of people here, but we're going to the nation's capital, where we know there's going to be at least one person smiling. But let's see if he's also ever had it or experienced vacation brain. That is the one and only Shashi Bellamkonda. Hey, Shashi.
Hey, everybody, reporting from the most powerful capital in the world, where instead of us going to sporting events, we bring the sporting events to us. So we are going to have like the Grand Prix event in Washington streets. All the flights are going to be delayed for some time. But the good news is we're going to have a new airport in 20 years' time.
20 years. Dulles has been waiting for about 50 years.
That's true. But I'm so happy to see you all. And Ivana, don't tell anybody where you went, because all of us will land up there. The beach won't be as clean as before.
Wow. I don't know what Shashi's planning to do that beach, but hey, Shashi, have you ever had vacation brain?
You know, I also thought about it. It's probably a permanent affliction for me.
Oh, damn. Okay. If you're gonna have an affliction, I guess vacation brain is the right one to have. Sounds like at least. All right. So every week I ask you guys the same question. Let's see. We're still at war. The bond market has just gone crazy. We crossed a significant milestone, which I am going to get into a little bit later. But who wants to go first and say how they're feeling this week about personal or the overall? Who wants to go first?
I also want to say hi to Blondie Leary.
I really got to find out if we're related, because there's
Yeah.
not that many Learys that I know of. So got to figure that one out. But thank you for joining us. All right, so, Shashi, since you said hello, that means you also can continue and say what's going on with you and how do you feel this week?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I think people who were not, one thing that I agree that I think the world has got wrong is teaching children that math is hard and math is not cool, right?
Who's doing that? Who's doing that? I didn't know. Really?
I mean, there's a whole generation of people who think math is not useful. Now, how it fits into this conversation is like we've been talking about the K economy, right? People who invest in stocks and people who don't invest in stocks, and who's getting better. Now, there's a new dimension that's come. So I think people who are investing in stocks are suddenly seeing, hey, why is this thing coming down? Is it AI? Is it infrastructure? Is it others? So my point is, I think all of us have to pay more attention to finances. I'm sure Ivana will agree. Save money for things that we don't control. And that's, I think, we are seeing a lot more of that. It seems like consumer spending is becoming a little bit more conservative, but they are spending on credit cards. But the things that they consider very essential is open for question, which is like if you think about you need food, shelter, and probably clothing, right? That's absolute necessity.
Yeah, we definitely need clothing, man. We need the clothing.
And now internet, like Pierre clearly has illustrated, right? And by the way, Pierre, I love libraries. They are one of the best thing ever invented, even before sliced bread. And when I came to the US 30 years ago, oh my God, like I thought like this is really great. I could borrow books. There are libraries where you can borrow bicycles, kayaks, and of course, internet. So it's still a confusing economy. We don't know whom to blame. That's my take, Brent.
I think I might. Anyway, who do you want to go next?
Let's go to Ivana.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was this week at a place where, understand, I'm like at the beach. Destin is what I would consider to be a smaller town. It is a tourist town, and I thought that was a great opportunity to see sort of what's going on with the small businesses there, with families vacationing, and I saw a lot of that. Now we happen to do vacation rental by owner, and we thought that was a good move. But we noticed, of course, we were looking at the real estate down there because I had heard that Florida was having a difficulty with real estate and that people were trying to offload condos and things like that, and that was not going well. I will tell you that in the condo thing that we were at was pretty much on the beach. The cheapest unit was a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom unit at $500,000.
Mm.
The most expensive one was maybe 1.2, 1.5. I think they went to 2 and 3 bedrooms, something like that. There were families, a lot of, and you would expect to see this. Now, the bigger kids had gone back to school, so we had a population of families with very preschool age children who were there. And we, of course, went to several small businesses. They seem to be doing really well. So I guess the message is, if you can afford to go on vacation, that is the way to go. I think I've been saying this for a while. Ever since COVID, I feel like the responses I had gotten from small business owners is that back when COVID happened, they realized that they had not paid enough attention to their financial, to like feeling like a CFO in their business, if this makes any sense, right? When we're in the small business, we're thinking about sales, we're thinking about customer service. We might be thinking about borrowing money for the business. What a lot of small business owners finally during COVID started to do, they recognized they did not have a slush fund. They did not have security. They didn't have anything there to kind of ride the business through a tougher time. And I would say since then, I've heard a lot more small business owners become more financially savvy and really thinking about what all these things mean. And my audience, they're the DIY audience. They are bootstrappers. They don't like borrowing money, especially women. Women business owners do not like to borrow. And I think they're looking at really creative ways to keep that business going. And I think that's an untapped potential. They're all getting a lot smarter on the financial side of things, investment side of things. So they're like, does that make any sense? They're thinking like a CFO. They've been thinking like an operator. They've been thinking like a marketer. But since COVID, I see a lot more content in my space with small business owners, especially women, becoming way savvier investors and seeing their investment portfolios and those types of things as a source of capital, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'll
hold my remarks for after whoever you want to go next.
I'm gonna go. Let's go around. Let's go to Pierre.
Okay, and I hope I can build on what Ivana just said, because I love that you highlighted, particularly among women entrepreneurs, this sort of breakdown, which is really, stop and think about, that's what analytics is. You're just basically, it's a Greek word just meaning for breakdown. And what you're doing is trying to figure out, that sales is, everyone knows, who starts a business knows that sales is the most obvious part. But when you start talking about being profitable, it goes back into decisions that you make, and having a slush fund has become much more important. I think not only just because what's going on in the economy, but just even for my example, for what's happened with the power disruption. Companies have been, there are companies that have not been. Some companies are up, some businesses are up, but there's others that are not. It took a while for gas stations to get their pumps working, which is a big deal. So imagine somebody who is running whether they're running their own Uber or maybe just have a small fleet of trucks that limits the places they can go to get fuel to even get themselves going, if they could get themselves going at all, basically. So I think people are, I think to even his point, I think business owners are realizing that, yeah, the sales and revenue is that top level thing that you need to have happening. And getting that type of getting revenue covers a lot of sins, basically. It kind of can cover a lot of mistakes. But at the same time, if you're trying to do something more sustainable for your business, if you're trying to kind of keep yourself moving forward, you have to look at where your money is going to, so that way you can put something aside for potentially for a rainy day. I don't have any examples directly from what's happened from Northwest Indiana, but I am starting to pay attention to who was able to kind of get themselves open and who can't. And I don't think it's a blame thing. Because I think this sort of storm was a big, to be honest, was a way bigger deal than the area has ever experienced. But at the same time, it should get you to start thinking about, where can you go? What can you do? If you have no power, where do you go to get power to work online, to communicate to your customers? Those sort of things become important. Social media, which was, it's still very casual, but it also could be a communication line to tell your customers what's going on and what you can do. So I think we're all thinking about this much more now, given things are going on in the economy. There's sections of the country, I think I heard this morning that Delaware had some really big, there was a couple of even tornadoes in the area, basically. And this was on top of Hawaii, which just had their big storm. And then on top of the storm that happened for Northeast Illinois and Northwest Indiana. So I think we're all thinking about this much more. And Leland, I'm going to pass the baton to you. Take us home.
So, in this business sector, I think that, no matter what the situation, no matter what the economy, businesses should be looking for ways to be able to optimize, to be able to utilize the technology, the new technology that's kind of coming out there, to be able to further it. Like an example, like yesterday on my little podcast, I saw like these deals for like battery backup systems, and I use like a small battery backup system for my Wi-Fi, my internet, so that even when my power goes out, and it wouldn't work for like what you got going on, Pierre. It's not going to last days, but it's enough that if I'm out of power for the whole day, I can work on my laptop, which has power, and I can work off of the internet, because for whatever reason, my internet doesn't go out when the cable internet in this area doesn't go out when power goes out. So it's like, taking advantage of those little situations. There was a report from CNBC and SurveyMonkey that said that 62% of employees are actually optimistic about how AI can actually like improve their workflow and their work situation. And so utilizing, the new technology with AI to be able to advance your company, to be able to make it more fluid, make it more profitable, and make your employees be able to get more work done, or even get into areas that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to do before, get into new sectors that was kind of closed off because of technology limitations, is the way that you're going to be able to advance your business into the next level. I saw this. It was an incredible video, all done by AI, and it's kind of shot in movie cinematic format. The whole thing, 100% voice, acting, everything done by AI. And you could tell a little bit that it was done by AI, but it was very realistic, very crazy what AI video can actually do now. And I'm kind of interested what it's going to do in like 10 years. The acting was really good. There were still moments to where, it was a little unnatural, a little uncanny, but I've seen worse in live acting. But it's one of those things that it's a software. It's based off of, I think it's, what was this, Studio Animator or something like that, for Cinema Studio 4 is the software. and anyone can buy it, anyone can use it, and anyone can get into a field and make something that's almost contending with something that Hollywood can pump out right now. And it's, that right there, and it's not just that, but there are many tools out there that small business owners can use to further their business. And you just got to look, you got to learn, and you got to apply yourself.
Wow.
Back to you, Brent.
All right. It's kind of sounding pretty optimistic there. That's pretty good. And I learned something. I had no idea what analytics. You said breakdown? That's what it actually means, breakdown?
It's a Greek word. It has a Greek meaning behind it, which means to break down.
So back in the day when I was doing my DJ and stuff, and people were telling me to break it down, that was analytical. Learn something new every day, man.
Analyze the vibe of the party and play the correct beat. Yeah.
I learned something new. And thank you, Pierre from Gary, Indiana, because I had no idea that's what analytics, the actual definite breakdown. All right, cool. All right. I hate to say, but speaking of breakdown, U.S. hit a rather dubious mark today. Well, not today, this week. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
40 trillion.
40 trillion.
I don't know how many zeros are in that, but
just amazing. And now here's the trivia question. I know Ivana really likes these trivia questions. So we crossed 40 trillion in U.S. national debt. I think it's every either 5 or 8 months we go into another $1 trillion of debt. I think it's 5 months now. It's kind of scary. But how long did it take U.S. to go to the $1 trillion mark in debt? How many years did it take to get that first trillion?
I remember.
Wait a minute. What did Shashi say?
200 years.
200 years. No. It's a little bit longer, right? Because I remember I was on a thing with Anita when it hit $1 trillion. Do you remember, Leland? Small Biz Trends did something when we hit $1 trillion.
Was it one of those like events in New York?
No. Anita was doing something. Could have been a graphic. Could have been a something. I just feel like I remember that. So I'm thinking that would have been in the teens somewhere. I feel like it was in the teens. Okay. 2013, 14, something like that. I don't know. I'm guessing, but
less than 20.
So 200,
yeah.
Okay, less
200
than 20.
237 years.
Now you do realize there's only been a country for what, 250 now? All right, so
yeah.
So we got what do you say, 237? We got 20. Pierre?
No, I didn't say 20.
I thought you said less than 20 or something like that.
Last time, yeah. The last time.
It's been 20 years.
I'm going to stretch it just a little bit just to throw a different number. I'd say about 35.
So it took, all right, so you're saying it took 35 years to get the first trillion in debt. Even as saying less than 20 years, right? 200,
right? How long did it take to hit $1 trillion?
Yeah, how many years?
I think, okay, Leland, did you say 237?
237.
Okay, I can't take yours. I'll say 238. I mean, I think it's in there somewhere. 240.
Am I Bob Barker? All right, so Shashi, what did you say again?
I said 200.
So we got 200, we got 237, we got 238. And Pierre, do you want to stick to 30?
I really don't know. I'm just not sure what number would be a great one. I would say I'm going to say 200, just to guess.
So you're matching Shashi's 200 basically.
Oh, Shashi got 200? Okay, I'll go lower and say 175.
175.
I feel like this is The Price is Right.
Like I said, all of a sudden I started feeling like Bob Barker.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 175, 200, 237, and what were you again?
238.
238. Yeah, that's why I started feeling like Bob Barker. All right, the answer to the question: how many years did it take the good old US of A to get $1 trillion in debt? The answer is
I don't know.
202.
202. Shashi and Pierre.
Now, I think I think he had already seen something like this.
Yeah.
He was very quick. If you notice, he was very quick to answer that question, and he had a little bit of a smirk on his face too.
No. The way I calculated it was,
Okay.
you're right, 250 years of celebration, right?
Right?
And I said, like, okay, people must have let us borrow money about 50 years ago. So
Oh, and think about this. When Bill Clinton left office, we actually had
There
a
was-
balanced budget.
Yeah.
yes.
And a surplus, right?
Yeah.
So all of this
You know
has
how
really
he did
been,
it?
yeah. So
You know how he did it? I just saw something, and I could be wrong. I only had one source. I didn't like go down the rabbit hole. But there was one source that said that during the time he was in office, he had raised taxes on corporations, not by a lot, but like every year the corporate tax rate had gone up. And whenever that corporate tax rate went up, the deficit was coming down, because then it had come down to 21%, I think. Then George Bush got in, and then he started the tax cuts again. And of course, there was the war in Iraq, but then it started going back up again.
are you surprised that it took 200 years to get that first trillion, and where are we now?
No.
39 additional trillion in about 20 some odd, little over 20 some odd years.
I am not surprised at
I think
all.
I think after that point right around there is when we got off the gold standard.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that I think was probably a contributing factor on that.
Look at the
Right.
per household debt. Almost 300,000 per U.S. household in U.S. debt. That's astounding to me.
Well, I look at that as like your house. Your house in and of itself is probably a big chunk of that debt. But yeah, there's probably some credit card debt and some
No.
student loans.
This is U.S. debt spread over every household.
Okay, the impact. Okay, gotcha.
This is what the government is putting on top of us.
Gotcha.
So I have a question for you guys. This was a poll question that I saw, and the poll question was: would you be open to taking on a tax increase, like as an American citizen? Would you be open to taking on a tax increase and reducing your Social Security benefit to cut down this debt? And then I'm going to tell you what the results were, because they were very skewed. Would you be interested in doing that? Why or why not? Would you be open to it? Why or why not?
You're asking us?
I'm asking you. I'm asking the panel.
I'm not sure.
No.
if I want-
Okay, Shashi says no. Pierre?
I'm hesitant to say yes on it because I don't know what the difference it would make. I feel like there's more. I think there's much more to it than just citizens cutting what they're getting from Social Security to make a difference.
He agrees with me, but said it in many words.
How about you, Leland?
Again, I'm kind of like with Shashi. I don't really want to see taxes increased when our spending is kind of out of control. I would love, it's like I want to see the spending go under control first before it's like, okay, now that we know that it's tempered, the budget has been tempered down to the point to where we're not, we're getting rid of fraud, we're getting rid of wasteful spending, then let's get the budget. Let's get this. Then you could probably increase taxes, but not until then.
Brent's going to love me for this. Brent, how about you? Because I think you and I are going to say the same thing. Would you be open to an increase in your taxes and a decrease in your Social Security benefit to pare this deficit down?
See, we're all coming towards a certain. We're kind of staring at the end line when I'm talking about when we're able to start collecting. And are you saying I'm just asking a qualifier because I feel like I've already put in what I needed to put in. So you're saying I have to put more in?
Yes.
To get what I'm already owed? Is that
exactly? You would not just for so. I'm saying, would you pay an increase in your federal taxes and a decrease in your Social Security benefit to pare this down? And I have a nasty answer that Brent is going to love.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm not. No, look. See, we're the kids now. See, we're at the end stage. Kids, they can plan for this stuff. We're not able to plan for this stuff.
And it is totally the response was so skewed, and the pollsters were surprised because everybody said no. And my question, the reason I said no is that I'm paying a lot of taxes and I'm getting very, very little benefit for those taxes, because all the benefits that were meant for the population, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's education, I am not seeing the benefit for my money. I'm 62. I probably ain't going to see the benefit of my Social Security either. And more importantly, since the last time we had a surplus, what have we done? Who has not paid taxes is my question.
Corporate.
Those people, corporations, and the wealthiest have not paid their fair share. And now you're going to come back and you're going to ask us regular people who have been subsidizing everything to take the hit? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's why I was perplexed for a second. Like, I'm gonna pay more and get less at this stage.
At this stage, and yet I don't even know where I saw this or heard this. The people who were like running the poll were like, "Oh, I'm surprised more people didn't want to contribute." And I'm like, "Hey, if I got free education and free healthcare and great roads and pothole fixed and all the things, and then you said, hey, you know what? We have all had a lot of benefit, blah, blah, blah. You see what I mean? I'd be more open to it if I had seen any of these benefits. But right now, I feel like I'm buying I'm buying a luxury vehicle every single year and burning it, driving it off a cliff.
I may be a bit more. I shouldn't say that. I guess the younger folks, this could potentially work in their favor if they did it, because they have so many years to plan for this. But they said hell no too, right? I mean,
everyone's saying hell no, right? Everyone is saying hell no, because obviously what they would like, a simple thing to do would be to just drop that. What is that? There's like a limit to when you pay Social Security. There's an income limit.
Yeah, I think I thought it was 107,000 for an individual or something like that. Once you get over that, then they stop taking FICA out or something like that.
Exactly, and that's just like no. So I think there are a lot of things at play here, and I would say, from a small business perspective, I wrote an article about this recently. When you think about customers, that's this is a huge concern of mine, right? And I read something that said that when that these huge companies and huge businesses, and yes, even small businesses, are quote unquote job creators. And that's something we've all come to expect. But in a healthy economy, there is no job. There is nothing unless you have someone to buy your stuff. Customers are job creators. Consumers, people who trade their money for your product and service, are job creators, right? Because if people want something and a small business sees the demand for that and they create that thing, you got customers. right? So a business only grows if there are what? Customers.
Mhm.
So my point is, we've had it all wrong, and that's another article I'm going to write about, asking the right questions. We are asking very, very shallow and vapid and banal questions. We need to take a moment and ask the right question. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Just take a moment and think about it. And if we would do that, we would, and I think a lot of small business owners are getting really, really savvy to that. And so that's why I wrote an article a week or so ago talking about, oh no, it was an article, was a newsletter thing about joy, bringing joy and happiness to the customers you have. This look right now, people are incredibly angry. It is a low grade anger and frustration and disappointment. Not only is your dollar buying less, you're getting like less experience. You're paying more for less constantly. And I think people are exhausted. And even Walmart came out with their numbers recently.
Can I piggyback a little bit? Because as you
Please.
lay this out,
Shut up.
I'm wondering why anybody would have said yes to that survey. Because what you just said, you're asking people to pay more and get less. Who in their right mind is going to do that for, for patriotism? When you see people making billions of dollars off of stuff, it's kind of hard for the average person to say yes to that deal. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny.
You have to build trust, right? When we're kids, or if you have kids, what do you teach? What do what is it that you tell young people? I remember when I was going into work, to build credibility and trust is like a little bank account. You build a bank account of trust. And how do you do that? You do that by being consistent, by being reliable, having people, delivering on what you say you're going to do. You're constantly building trust. And this is how you build your reputation. This is how you build your brand, right? And you build this, like every time you do this thing, a little money goes in the bank account, right? That's why when a company or a small business makes a mistake, which we are human, these things happen. The companies who have the money in their little trust account do well. They are forgiven. But if you don't, if you've spent down in that trust, who's going to help you? Nobody. They just going to be like, sorry about your luck.
You know what? When I get a chance to speak to little kids, to try to impart a little wisdom, the first thing I try to teach them is that Eric Dickerson is the greatest NFL running back of all time. Your advice is good too, but just thought
I wanted to we should not take this the wrong way, meaning we should not say tax the billionaires, and I'll tell you why. If we took the wealth of every billionaire on the earth, we would still be only at 20 trillion, right? So we've got to go to the root cause of where we are spending this money, and is it useful to us who are spending taxes or not? So the only way to do that is politically, meaning everybody, make sure you understand who's standing for election, what their mission is, what their principles are, and do they understand our problems or not? Or do they just this is almost like somebody having a blank check, right? Like, you have no accountability. You can spend as much as you want for whatever reason, because accountability is only till they get elected.
You know what, Shashi, I kind of agree, but I also have this picture in my head of the inaugural night ball reception, and who were the people that were standing right next to Trump in that picture? I believe Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. Name a tech CEO that had contributed millions upon millions to the inauguration. Who do you think is going to get their message into that particular power cell? Those guys or guys like us? It's a very hard situation to deal. I don't think there's any one easy answer, but the things that have gotten us to this point, there's a reason why the people with the power and the money have the power and the money, because they've been able to set up this situation where, you know, they kind of get what they want. I don't know if little guys get listened to. I mean, they might, maybe some, but it's kind of hard to compete with a dude with $1 trillion and says, "Hey, I'll give you a couple million, but it would be nice if I could get this thing, you know, approved." It's just, I love capitalism, but it is a hard system to. There is no equality in capitalism, I don't think.
But we don't. But see, we just like to say we have capitalism. One of the things I love about capitalism and letting the market decide, one of the key tenets is competition. Because if you have competition, then these companies are competing for value. They're innovating. They are creating value. That's what competition is. This is why we used to have laws, right? So that like these mergers and acquisitions, some could and some could not happen. I can't remember. I remember back in the 80s, there were lots of times, oh, we want to merge, sorry, you can't. They broke up the Baby Bells. That was an industry in telecom. They broke all of that up.
Well, we go all the way back to the Sherman antitrust about, remember, John Rockefeller with Standard Oil?
Yep.
He had like 95% of the oil business. They had to break it up. Teddy Roosevelt was like, no, we can't have one person controlling all of this. I mean, and we're kind of like
that anymore. And we don't have that anymore.
Well, I think we're kind of back to it. I think we're kind of back to that situation, not maybe in just one hand, but when you think of what's going on with AI, it's really only a few people that are driving all of this stuff. And it seems to be getting bigger and bigger what they're driving, and it's fewer and fewer people involved.
And I think that's the issue. So I resent, because I come from a communist country, right? Authoritarian, communist, whatever. I come from that. I resent having someone say that I am that if I am for competition. That is one of the beauties of a free market. Right now, I'm going to change my viewpoint on something. We've all been, something we didn't talk about today has been like the market and how it keeps going up. And I was sure it was going to pop and crash and all this other kind of stuff. And now I am not so sure. I am not so sure because there has been, I've been doing a little reading, and there has been a tremendous amount of work on getting more people into the stock market. More. We have Trump accounts. Those Trump accounts that every newborn now is vested into the market. They're coming up with stable coins. They're coming up. They want the world to come into our markets. Why? Because if you and I have skin in the game, right? If we have a lot of money in the market, and if more people have money in the market, that's going to allow them to, too big to fail. Print more money. Do all the things that they want to do. Why? Because we can't let it fail.
Oh,
and that's not capitalism either.
Yeah, we've seen that show before too.
Yeah, we've seen that show before. Mm-hmm.
But Brent, you brought up a good point, which if you think of a doomsday scenario, right? The slide that you just showed, 5 companies are probably controlling, 90% of the world global internet, right?
Yep.
Now, more than their revenue, they are now able to say, for example, Starlink can tell Kyiv, if you don't do this, I'm going to cut off your communication. The same thing with Russia. Now, as they succeed in these things, what prevents them from, saying, you tax me, I'm going to pull the plug. So the only power against these is, again, back to politics. The politicians that we elect have to be able to stand that and pass laws before it's too late to make sure, like, for example, I paid double the amount of my electricity bill. I don't know if it is because of data centers or otherwise. It was quite a hot summer. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm paying for AI in tokens. I'm paying for AI in water, electricity, and everything else. And that's why there's a huge backlash. I think the people who are supporting data centers are also taking it back. So the power, I think, is in us voting in elections and making sure we influence policy. So it won't be a
Right now, it's like it's
company
a one-sided fight because these companies have been doing that through their lobbies, right? Us small guys, we haven't really gotten together and fought that. But it feels like this data center thing. It does feel like that's a fight that is now the little guys are getting together and beginning to push back on that. But we haven't really seen that before. But maybe this is a sign of, hey, we're not going to be taken advantage of with this, because this AI stuff is, I mean, I'll bring that up again because the numbers are pretty staggering. There's going to be a $1 trillion annual capex. $1 trillion. That's amazing, and it's really a handful of companies. And I think if you look at the right, it'll take annual $10 trillion global AI recruitment. That's more than any food, total food purchases and housing purchases. AI is going to be the number one spend thing, which is, it's impossible to think of that with all the people and all the food we got to eat and all the houses we got to keep hot and cold. And yet and still 10 trillion is going into AI all its own. And it's being driven by like a handful of companies. This is a tough nut to crack. And if we don't crack it right now, it might, I don't know if it's gotten away from us already, but if we don't do something, when I say we, I mean like a collective, we gotta, regular people have to work with, like Shashi said, with politicians to try to rein this stuff in, or else it's gonna get even further and further out of whack. It's the tough one, really tough.
Hey, Amber.
Yes, our favorite, Amber. Amber, are you willing to pay more in taxes and get less in Social Security to make our country great again?
To reduce the deficit.
I bet she is. I bet her eyes are bulging out of her head right now.
I like how Leland made sure he got it right. Oh, Amber, I think this is fascinating. I did bring up this. I think I brought up the bond market chart too.
Yep.
Let me bring that up because once again, most small businesses, and I'll put myself in this too. I wasn't really worried about the bond market as much. Of course, the stock market, and there is a relationship between the bond and the stock market. But I hadn't really focused on it. But this week, it really got kind of out of hand. So I see if I can find this thing. So I asked Gemini. I'll make sure I get this. Here it is. So I asked Gemini, why are people concerned about the bond market? It gave me 4 things: rising interest rates and bond prices, the inverted yield curve recession signal, systemic size and interconnectedness, all the stuff where all that money is going to. Real world impact, the squeeze, mortgage rates increasing, auto loans are more expensive, credit card. We don't even want to talk about credit at this point. Retirement savings, that bag looks a little smaller now than it used to be. So how much importance, how much time and effort should regular folk, I'm trying to get rid of this, but should us regular folks and small business folks in particular, maybe you didn't think about these things 4 or 5 years ago. How important is it now to actually understand the global environment in order for you to feel comfortable about running your business?
I think at some point it's I don't want to say very important, but I think at some level you can't play ostrich about what's going on at some levels. I think what ends up happening is that for some topics and for some issues, where there's kind of an immediate threat. Like let's take data centers, for example. The idea of where a data center is being built and its potential impact on your electric bill and your water bill, that feels much more immediate than, say, the bond market. I usually think of the bond market when, if I'm investing in stocks, I do a variation of net present value, and I use like the 10-year bond rate as part of that calculation. But the point is, I'm doing that calculation to think of investing into something within the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that small business owners tend not to think of. And unfortunately, you see that with analytics too at some level. But at the same time, you can't, if you're trying to grow a business, you can't ignore that. Think about, I mean, it's like going on Shark Tank and not knowing your numbers. And a lot of the concepts that are there, they may not be, it may not be textbook MBA, but at a certain level, they are leading into that and leading into venture capital. And the people who go on there need to know that if they're trying to not only get the shark, but at least, be on, in a lot of cases, they went on those shows to kind of show that, hey, we know our numbers and here's what we're going to. So the short answer to your comment, your question, Brent, I think I don't put it in the category of very important, like this is high priority, but I also think it's a priority for strategy long term. I think that you have to pay attention to what's going on in the markets at some level if you're planning to grow, because at some point there's going to be some part of your operations that will touch upon it where you need to at least know what you're doing or at least have a sensibility about it.
If you think about this, this is clearly distrust in the US ability to pay back the money. So what happens is, just like a landlord may say, like, hey, I don't think you're going to pay me your rent, but I tell him like, no, please, I want to stay in this house. And I say, okay, in that case, I'm going to increase your rent by 200. That's what happened to long-term bonds. And US bonds have traditionally always been safe bet, right? Like, okay, I'm going to take 10% of all my money and put it into US bonds because they are like gold standard, hopefully. So now, like, if you have to pay 5%, like, I don't know, 30 years is a long time for me. But 30 years ago, I would have put a lot of money into that because, 5% is pretty good for a chunk of your savings.
That was all. It was almost like 100% safety.
Yeah.
And you're going to get 5% off of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why would you? If you put in the stock market, you expect every 8 or 9 years things should go down, go up. And if you're in the up cycle, you win. If you want the money when it's down, then you lose. So this was good. Now, a lot of countries that we have stopped developing relationships hold a lot of our bonds. That to me is very troubling, right? It's
Does Japan still hold a lot?
Yes, I think so too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's this needs somebody to think long term and think in a way that, and also people to listen to them. So hopefully this buyback program where they're saying we'll buy, I think if I understood this right, they're going to buy back long-term bonds and try to reduce the interest rate there and focus on short term.
So just kind of a quick, on a scale of like 1 to 10, let's say as a small business person, how important do you feel it is for them to really not get to the nitty and the gritty, but at least have a general understanding of the bond market and how it relates to the overall economy?
Are you asking us?
Oh yeah, I was actually asking Shashi, but anybody, Shashi, yeah, okay. Feel free. Yeah, no, whoever wants to handle that. Yeah,
go ahead, Shashi. It's you. It's your question. I just didn't know.
Can you repeat that, Brent?
I hope I can. So like in your opinion, a scale of 1 to 10 for a regular small business person, like let's just say like a mom and pop, how important on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for them to at least have a general understanding of the bond market and how it relates to the stock market and the economy for them to feel good about their own small business?
It used traditionally, I think everybody thought like, if I invest in bonds, 40 years later, my kid will get a lot of money. So it was almost a tradition to invest in bonds when kids were born, because that market was solid. It didn't move up and down too much. But I think now it moves up and down, and it's also gotten very confusing. So I don't think small businesses think about their own investments in bonds. And I think with this current market, they're a little puzzled about like, how does this affect us, right? Like if
so on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is them for them to understand all that stuff?
I think 7.
Wow. Anybody else?
I'm like 10 plus. Oh,
wow, 10 plus.
I agree with the 7, frankly. Important enough not important enough that it breaks date night, but important enough to say you need to take care of this if you want the relationship to continue. I know it's a bad analogy, but that's all I can say.
Hey, date night, that's important stuff there.
I'd put it a little bit lower. I guess I'm from a generation that didn't really work with bonds that much. You know, it was not like one of those things to where people are like, go invest in bonds. You know, it's like, I think maybe my grandparents gave me a bond slip when I was really, really young, and I've completely forgotten about it. But it's not something.
You're in luck. You can buy your house with that now.
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you this, and not just for buying stocks, but just for understanding the signs that the bond market is sending in terms of the economy's health and your small business.
Keeping an eye on it is always going to be, you know, it's just like the stock market. You're going to keep an eye on it, but you're not going to make it like a daily check. It's going to be maybe like a what's going on in the news. And if it's like bad or good, maybe that's a barometer on whether or not I need to hunker down as a business or expand or, you know, do something to that effect. But I don't think that it's necessarily something that it's going to be like, it's going to like, I have, you know, friends who have businesses that are plumbers and you know, electricians and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't see them being like, oh my gosh, what's the bond market going to be like? It's going to dictate what I'm going to be doing with my business. No, they're like, okay, what's the price of my equipment that I'm buying from Home Depot? And then they adjust based off of that. And they usually just pass it on to the customer. I mean,
do you ask what, and I think Shashi's got to go. Thanks for making it. And Shashi also let us know that foreign countries are holding roughly 25% to 32% of U.S. publicly held debt. And Japan holds over 1.13 trillion in U.S. Treasury securities, making it the #1 foreign holder of U.S. debt for the past decade. Thanks, Shashi.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Yep.
Honestly, I would have thought that would have been China.
Well, see, Japan has been stacking this up since the 80s. China is kind of relatively new on the scene for doing that. And they buy a lot of real estate. Japan was buying real estate, but then they also bought a lot of...
It's a whole investment strategy that Japan has, because they have these like insanely low interest rates. And so what they were doing is they were actually buying U.S. treasuries and U.S. bonds. And what do they call that? Playing the spread, the gap or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the spread. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing there, you know. But I want to make sure that I'm clear about the fact that, again, basics, people. Bonds and yields drive everything. What the bond market is like, you got to I'm learning this. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I did not care. I would have put this at a 3 probably up until the last couple years, where I got to learn, thanks to my mom. Like, there are things you learn in school in economics and things like that. And then I suddenly got curious and I was like, oh my God, remember econ? Bonds drive everything. And that means that your interest rates will be higher and all of this stuff and inflation. And then as a small business owner, I'm going to do a call out to Mike Michalowicz, because remember, he wrote that book, Profit First, that we all learned as kids. Pay yourself first, right? So in this case, what I'm saying to small business owners is you need to play that spread too. There are simple things you can do where you can you can buy CDs. CD rates are awesome right now. You could take, let's say you get paid $10,000, right? Keep your 5, take the other 5 and put it like in a 6-month CD, because like in 6 months, we're going to be into another year. You're going to have your taxes to pay or something like that. So like, I'm just saying, get smarter in understanding how our economy works. It's like a giant mobile.
Mhm.
And you pull one thing and all these other things are going to shake. So like, make sure you understand what that is, because let me just tell you guys something. And I've been going through it right now. And that is, there are financial people out there who want to sell you things.
Yes.
Everyone is going to try to sell you something. Why? Because there aren't enough customers with enough money. And that means they're going to say whatever they need to say to sell you something. And we've all been burnt by these things. And you're not going to get burnt if you understand how something works. That's all. That's my mic drop moment. I'm done now. Sorry.
That's a good mic drop. I would say that, in fact, even this morning I was listening to NPR. They were talking about some company that will buy your life insurance.
Oh yeah, they've been around for a
payout. You get a payout. You sell the life insurance. You get some sort of payment from the company, and then when you die,
they get the money.
The company gets the pay. Yeah, I had not heard about that before.
There's a reverse mortgage things too that they
yeah, it's just
Tom Selleck.
We're doing all these things that kind of unpackage or unravel these assets or these instruments in ways that we never quite have thought about before. I think it's to Evena's point, we have to be. I think people just have to be more savvy than just saying I have a paycheck and put something in savings these days.
You know what they did in 2000? You know how they did in 2008, where they bundled these mortgages,
subprime mortgages, yeah.
Right. Guess what? That doesn't apply to AI debt, because somebody went and asked the SEC, like, "Hey, can we do this? Can we bundle this AI debt?" And they said, "Oh my goodness, it doesn't say AI debt." Like, of course it doesn't say that, because there was no such thing. Yeah. But they are doing that again. And so just be super, like, all I'm saying is educate yourself, go to trusted sources, read an econ book. I mean, I don't know.
Go ahead, Leon.
I was going to say, have you heard of X Money, Elon Musk's new financial institution? They provide a 6% AYP.
I just, you put a trust again.
Brent being like, I don't want to lose my money.
Yeah. Because I'm scared. I'm scared because of what they did with SpaceX.
Hey, look, I am. This is going to sound so counter, because I really don't appreciate a lot of how he approaches certain things. But I am about to spend $200 a month on Grok and Grokbot because it's that good.
Are you really?
It is that I've tested. I've had people do things for me. I've seen a whole bunch of stuff. That Grokbot is just go on YouTube and ask about Grokbot recommendation. It's like damn near 99.999% people are saying it's the best thing out right now.
Nice.
Wow.
So I'm going to put all my stuff aside of how I feel personally about this guy and spend $200 a month, because I'm practical beyond just the opinions. If it's that good, I got to use it.
So I recently got Starlink for my mother-in-law. She had DSL and it was terrible. I mean, it was basically like just a bump up of dial up. It was, I mean, it was slow for the week that we didn't have. And it's not as good as I was hoping it would be. Like, I was hoping that it would be kind of like, cable internet, solid, but it's not as good as I was hoping. It's still better than what she had, but it's not like what I was envisioning in my mind. So
that's interesting to hear. Because I thought Starlink wasn't that one of the profitable things that were in SpaceX?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
are you not going to get a Tesla now?
Oh, I live in an area to where it's like we don't have charge. You know, it's like 200 miles from any major city. It's not a good idea to get like a good Tesla out in this area. But it was one of the things that I was considering doing, is like getting Starlink for myself at the next place. And now I'm like, no, I'll just stick with cable. But it is interesting that it's like, you know, sometimes it's like people were talking that up, and I found it not as good as I was hoping.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're a little past the time,
We're
but
past our time.
But it's been once again another really interesting
It's a good show.
set of conversation. Any last words from anybody? But you already had your mic drop, but anything after?
And on a high note.
Yeah, and on the high note. All right, folks, we will see you next week. Hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you then. See you.